Eala bows out of Australian Open doubles, set to shift focus to Philippine Open. Eala is set to see action in the WTA 125 Philippine Open. This became all but certain after the Filipina tennis ace officially wrapped up her 2026 Australian Open campaign, bowing out in the opening round of the women's doubles competition on Tuesday. Eala and her partner, Ingrid Martins of Brazil, squandered several golden opportunities as they fell in 3 sets to Japan's Shuko Aoyama and Poland's Magda Linette, 6-7, 3, 6-2, 3-6, in the first round at Melbourne Park. Currently at a career-high world doubles ranking of number 134, Eala, alongside world number 80 Martins, had their chances to seize early control of the match. The pair raced to a commanding 4-0 lead in the opening set, but the veteran duo of Aoyama, 38, and Linette, 33, remained composed and steadily worked their way back, trimming the deficit to 4-3. Although Eala and Martins extended their advantage to 5-3, Aoyama and Linette mounted another rally, forcing a tiebreak after leveling the score in the 12th game. The seasoned pair then took charge in the breaker, jumping to a 3-0 lead and never looking back en route to claiming the opening set. The second set saw the Filipino-Brazilian tandem respond with renewed intensity. Once again, they surged ahead 4-0, but this time made sure not to relinquish the advantage. After the Japanese-Polish duo claimed the 5th and 6th games, Eala and Martins swept the next 2 to level the match and force a decider. Aoyama, a 2023 Australian Open women's doubles finalist and former world number 4, and Linette, a 2023 US Open doubles quarter-finalist, ensured they would not stumble out of the gates again in the third set. Instead, they stormed to a 4-0 lead of their own. Eala and Martins threatened a comeback when they closed the gap to 4-3, but that proved to be as close as they would get. Aoyama and Linette sealed the match in the 9th game at Court 12 of Melbourne Park after 2 hours and 36 minutes. The court that teaches, Eala's end, and a new beginning. There is an old saying in sport, every ending is a beginning in disguise. For Alexandra Eala, Filipino tennis's brightest young star, the 2026 Australian Open was precisely that kind of crossroads. In the early days of January, under the blazing lights of Melbourne Park, she stepped onto the hard courts of the year's first Grand Slam with aspirations as large as the crowd that had turned Court 6 into a sea of red, blue, and yellow. But when the final ball was struck, her campaign in Australia had concluded not with a trophy or a deep run, but with a pair of hard-fought losses and a lesson in resilience, a chapter closing as another, equally compelling one, was about to begin. A stage bigger than scores. From the moment Eala arrived in Melbourne, she was a focal point of local and international attention, not simply as a competitor, but as a symbol. A 20-year-old daughter of Manila whose journey had taken her from junior triumphs to the top 50 in the world rankings, Eala carried with her the hopes of a nation eager for representation on tennis's biggest stages. Each match became more than points on a scoreboard. It became a narrative of pride, identity, and possibility. In her Australian Open singles debut, she raced through the first set against American Alicia Parks, a thrilling 6-0 that sent waves of excitement through Filipino supporters. But tennis, like life, is not a straight line. Parks regrouped, raised her level, and ultimately secured victory in 3 sets, ending Eala's singles run. The defeat was narrow in score but expansive in lesson. Intensity, adaptation, and mental endurance matter as much as raw talent. Still, the journey was not yet over for Eala. With her partner Ingrid Martins from Brazil, she entered the women's doubles draw, another chance, another canvas on which to paint her potential. As the match unfolded against seasoned opponents, Magda Linette and Shuko Aoyama, the Filipina and her partner displayed flashes of brilliance. They opened with a commanding 4-0 lead, fought back after dropping the first set, and refused to yield without a challenge. But in the end, it was experience that edged out momentum, and they bowed out in 3 competitive sets. The Australian Open dream had concluded, but the story was far from over. The weight of expectation, and the gift of crowd energy. One of the unique experiences of this particular tournament was the palpable passion of fans. Hundreds of Filipinos traveled, or tuned in from back home, to watch Eala compete. Flags waved. Cheers echoed. Court 6, often overlooked during other matches, felt like a home court thousands of miles from Manila. This outpouring of support was a double-edged sword, a source of strength that lifted her early performance, and a reminder of the pressure that comes with being a national favorite on a global stage. For Eala, those moments of cheering and chanting represented something deeply personal. In her post-match reflections, she spoke not just of performance but of the emotional landscape of competition, the joy of support, the challenge of expectation, and the enduring pride of representing her country in a sport where Filipinos rarely find themselves on the marquee. These experiences, bittersweet though they might have been, are not merely footnotes in her career. They are integral threads in the tapestry of her growth. Learning from loss. Sports psychology teaches that growth seldom arrives in triumph alone. Losses, especially tough ones, fracture a player's assumptions, forcing introspection, analysis, and adjustment. Eala's Australian Open campaign yielded plenty of material for such reflection. Her singles loss illustrated the perils of momentum shifts in tennis, how dominance in one set can evaporate under tactical adjustments and relentless pressure. Her doubles match revealed the value of partnership and strategy, the delicate choreography of teamwork under duress. The emotionally charged environment demonstrated the psychological dimension of elite sport, the need to balance external support with internal equilibrium. These lessons are not just tactical, they are foundational. Future Grand Slams, tougher opponents, and higher stakes await. The Australian Open was not a full stop in her career, but a semicolon, a pause that prepares the reader for what comes next. Shift of focus, a homecoming opportunity. And what comes next could hardly be more exciting. Shortly after her exit from Melbourne, Eala set her sights on the inaugural WTA 125 Philippine Open, a tournament that promises to be historic not only for her, but for Philippine tennis as a whole. This transition, from the blue courts of Melbourne to the familiar settings of home soil, represents a pivot not just geographically, but emotionally and strategically. Competing at home means more than logistical comfort. It means playing among awake dreams. Here, Eala is not just a global competitor, she is a national heroine, a role model, and a bridge between Filipino youth and the world stage of sport. The Philippine Open, as a WTA 125 event, may not have the grand spectacle of a major, but it offers something equally essential, a platform for affirmation, for consolidation of skills, and for momentum building. After the intensity of a Grand Slam, this tournament could be the setting where Eala transforms her lessons learned into wins, where familiar cheers become fuel for confidence, and where new chapters in her career can be authored with purpose and clarity.